I had just finished hammering the last post into the eastern fence line when I saw the dust trail rising off the dirt road. That old red SUV could only belong to one person, Karen Baxter, president of the Willow Hills Homeowners Association, self-appointed queen of everything past the blacktop. Now, let me set this straight. My ranch isn't even inside Willow Hills. My land borders it, but the boundary ends about a half-mile before my front gate. I own every acre past the ridge. Still, Karen believed her jurisdiction knew no borders. She didn't bother stopping at the gate this time. I watched her roll right through, tires crunching gravel, her lips already moving a mile a minute behind the windshield. I leaned on the post driver, wiped the sweat off my brow, and waited. The SUV screeched to a halt a few feet from me. The door popped open before the engine even stopped. "You can't build this fence here," she barked, holding up a clipboard like it was a law book. "You're violating Community Code 7.14, unapproved perimeter changes without HOA inspection." I blinked at her. "Karen, this is my land. Your rules don't reach out here." She thrust the clipboard toward me like she wanted to jab me in the chest with it. "The aesthetics affect our neighborhood property values. That makes it our concern. I've already submitted a fine to the board." I chuckled. "The board can kiss my. You'll be receiving an invoice in the mail. $3,000. That stopped me. $3,000? For what? Unapproved construction, disturbance of natural landscape, and non-conforming boundary appearance. It's all here." She shook the clipboard like it contained the word of God. I crossed my arms. "You set 1 foot past that gate again without permission, and I'll call the sheriff." "You'll do no such thing," she spat. "If you won't follow the rules, then you'll be removed. We'll take it to court if we have to." "You do that," I said, then turned back to the fence. She stood there another 30 seconds, fuming, then stomped back to her car and drove off in a flurry of gravel and self-righteousness. ####. 2 weeks later, I got the letter. Official Willow Hills HOA header. Notice of fees and legal intent. $3,000 due within 15 business days or further action would be taken. I tossed it in the wood stove. The next morning, a man in a shirt and tie showed up at my gate. Claimed to be a property inspector hired by the HOA. "Turn around," I told him. He stammered something about being authorized to enter, citing some obscure clause. "You're on private land. That clause doesn't apply. Try that again and you'll be trespassing." He left. The next morning, I found the padlock on my gate broken and tire tracks leading up to my barn. That's when I stopped playing nice. ####. I called the sheriff. Deputy Lane came out the same afternoon. Good man. Grew up around here. Knows the difference between law and petty tyranny. "You think it was Karen?" he asked, after I showed him the lock and the tracks. "She's the only one ballsy enough to think she's above the law," I said. He nodded. "I'll have a talk with her. You need a camera out here, though. Something for evidence." "I'll handle that." As he left, he turned and said, "Don't do anything rash." I gave him a smile. I'm a rancher, not a criminal. But I still cleaned my rifle that night. ####. 3 days later, the sheriff called me himself. "She filed a complaint. Said you threatened her with a weapon. She lie about what day it was too?" I said. "I haven't seen her since she fined me." "I know. Your neighbor confirmed you were at the feed store during the time she claims." "She trying to get a restraining order?" "Probably. But it won't stick without proof. Still, I'm officially warning you, don't escalate." "I won't," I said. But that same evening, I heard something outside. It was nearly midnight. The moon was up, and so was the wind, but something felt off. I slipped on my boots, grabbed my .30-06, and stepped onto the porch. Movement near the fence line. I crouched behind the porch post and watched. Two figures near the north side. Flashlights. One of them had bolt cutters. I chambered around and yelled, "You're trespassing! Drop the tools and walk back to the road." The flashlights froze. One of them turned toward me. I said now. I fired a round into the air. That did it. They bolted like rabbits. I heard one of them yell, "He's crazy." Good. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. ####. Next morning, I reviewed the camera footage. Crystal clear, Karen and some other guy, probably one of her HOA cronies, trying to cut through my fence. I burned the footage onto a USB and drove straight to the sheriff's office. Deputy Lane watched the video, whistled low. "This is more than a fine now." He called Karen in for questioning. She denied everything, claimed the footage was doctored. Sheriff didn't buy it. 2 days later, Karen was served with a court summons. Trespassing, attempted vandalism, and filing a false police report. She'd finally stepped over a line she couldn't tiptoe back across. But she wasn't done. ####. A week before her court date, I got another letter. This one certified. From a lawyer. Cease and desist from threatening behavior toward HOA leadership. Attached was a second HOA fine, now totaling $4,800 with added legal costs. I didn't even read the rest. I just wrote "Return to Sender" on the envelope and nailed it to a tree by the road. 3 nights later, someone spray-painted "Criminal" across my barn. I found fresh tire tracks again. I called the sheriff, and this time, they left a patrol car at the edge of my property overnight. It didn't deter her. Karen marched up to the cruiser the next morning and demanded they arrest me for threatening the neighborhood. Lane just laughed and told her to get a lawyer. Again. That afternoon, she stood on the road in front of my ranch with a sign that read, "Unsafe property. Dangerous individual," and tried to wave at passing cars. All 4 of them ignored her. I watched her from the porch with my coffee, rifle leaning by the door. She left after 2 hours of being ignored by everyone, but not before hurling a rock through my mailbox. ####. The day of the hearing, she showed up in full pearls and suit jacket, looking like she was auditioning for a reality TV show. I showed up in boots and a button-down. Her lawyer tried to argue she was enforcing neighborhood uniformity expectations. The judge wasn't buying it. "You don't own his land," she said. "You don't get to govern it." When they played the surveillance video, Karen's face went redder than a cooked lobster. She was found guilty on trespassing and vandalism charges. The fine was $2,000, and she was barred from coming within 100 feet of my property. The judge even warned her that further interference could lead to jail time. I walked out with a smile. Karen walked out with steam coming out of her ears. ###. It's been quiet since. The new HOA president, some guy named Paul, stopped by a week later with a pie and an apology. Said he never supported Karen's aggressive tactics and asked if I'd be willing to let bygones be bygones. I said sure, so long as they kept to their side of the road. I've since reinforced the gate, added 2 more cameras, and keep my rifle cleaned and loaded. Just in case. Because out here, we take care of our land. And we don't let anyone, especially not self-important suburban tyrants, tell us what to do with it.